When my mom was pregnant, her doctor told her she was expecting one baby girl, but instead she got us, conjoined twins. While my mom loved us deeply, my dad told her to let us die. He suggested to accidentally let us drop on the floor because no one would be suspicious of us dying anyway. When our mom refused, he said, "Well, at least give them up for adoption." But my mom wouldn't give in, so our dad broke up with her and left. Now imagine a single mom raising twins. It wasn't easy, but doctors offered her money so they could do experiments with us. The most cruel one was giving one of us electroshocks to see if the other one would feel the pain. Our mom didn't know what they were doing to us, but when we told her about it afterward, she promised us no more experiments. By the way, my name is Elaine, and her name is Buttface. Let me tell you about our lives and challenges. You see, my sister and I always got along quite well, but in 10th grade, she developed a crush on our classmate Derek, who liked her back. They constantly flirted with each other, and I had to listen to all of it. But Derek was one of the most boring guys in the world, so I told my sister she had to stop seeing him. Of course, she was angry at me, but afterward we made a deal. We had to find a guy that we both loved. However, on our 21st birthday, we got approached by a Chinese lady. She said she was working for a rich businessman who wanted us to come to China. I said, "For what?" And she responded, "My boss really likes the way you two look, and he will pay you a lot of money." "How much?" I asked. And she laid a briefcase on the table. When she opened it, we saw lots of money, and she said, "He will pay you $1 million in cash if you're going to stay with him for 6 months. We both looked at each other. This sounded kinda sketchy, but $1 million was a lot of money, so I asked her to show us a photo of him. The guy was already in his 50s and a bit fat, but he looked very friendly, so we both agreed on flying to China to meet him. When we arrived at his mansion, he greeted us with a big smile and gave us a hug. He wasn't as creepy at all. He was more like a big teddy bear, so we didn't mind that he pressed his head against our middle breast. I mean, we knew exactly what he was paying us for, but soon things started to become a little bit uncomfortable. He used us as a status symbol, and whenever his friends came over, we had to dress up in lingerie and serve them dinner. His friends would always be in awe and then laugh at us. Of course, it was quite uncomfortable to be half naked and stared at by a bunch of guys, but that was nothing compared to the shows we had to perform for them. But I don't want to go into that. Anyway, when we came back to the US, we bought ourselves an apartment and got a job at a bank. They even paid us 2 salaries, but what we really wanted was to get into a relationship. So we tried out the dating app Tinder. Most people didn't believe we were real, but Douglas did. We met him in a small park, and for the first time, both of us had great chemistry with the same guy. He was funny, charming, and good-looking. It only took 8 months for him to move into our apartment, but we quickly learned that he was manipulative and toxic. One night, I was laying in bed next to him while my sister was asleep. He began telling me that he loved me more than my sister because she was annoying and stuck up. Hearing him trash talk my sister somehow made me feel special, like I was better than her. But it turns out that he was having secret conversations with my sister too. One night, I woke up and heard them talking. My sister was giggling and I asked, "What are you guys talking about?" She responded, "Oh, nothing important." And I said, "Wait, did he tell you that he likes you more than me?" My sister responded, "Yes, he did." And I said, "He told me the same thing." Well, a few minutes later, we had thrown him out of our apartment. You see, being conjoined twins is like being married on steroids. Even though you are 2 different people, you're still the same person because even if my sister has a bad day, I will have a bad day too. So it's very important that we take care of each other. Luckily, our current boyfriend Robert is a good guy who loves us equally and even has a fetish for our 3 breasts. You must be wondering whether one guy can pleasure both of us, and the answer is yes, because we share most of our organs, including our you-know-what. Anyway, a lot of people ask us if we want to be separated someday, and the answer is yes. If scientists could grow us a second body and put one of our heads onto it, we would definitely do it. But that doesn't mean that we aren't happy with our current lives. Right now, we are even trying to have a baby and...
My name is Flaggy, I'm 21, and I'm not posting this alone. Meet my sister, Rachel. Yes, we're Siamese twins, and we each wanted to have our own separate lives until it happened. Do you want to know what I'm talking about? I have my own body, like Rachel, but we're stuck together at the head. Our heads were fused during our time in the womb. Our parents made good money, so they wanted to pay for an operation to separate us right after birth. But the doctors forbid it. It was too dangerous. Although not as dangerous as Rachel's recent trick. The life of a Siamese twin is not an easy one. We're very dependent on each other, need to agree on everything we do, and you're never alone. There's always someone to talk to, but when we fall out, there's nowhere to go. Fortunately, Rachel and I got on well and supported each other. That was until Steve showed up. He approached us one day in a park and started speaking to us. I was sure Steve was flirting with me. Rachel was silent, as usual. I always spoke for the two of us, and my figure is much more curvy than my sister's. But despite this, Steve invited Rachel to see a movie, not me. And then it started. They walked in together, paying me almost no attention at all. But I was the one who always had dreamt of a boyfriend, not Rachel. My sister started talking about Steve from dawn to dusk, and I was sick of hearing about him. But soon, everything went too far. I started to get used to their relationship. Well, I had no choice, really. Steve was kind of funny, I'll bet a little nerdy. Of course, they started to get more intimate, and I was green with envy. I didn't have a boyfriend. Oh well. Their cute romantic story quickly turned into a nightmare, and what I found out next shook me to my core. It turned out that after going out walking, Steve and Rachel had been slipping me sleeping pills to have some alone time. Can you imagine? I couldn't even believe that my sister was capable of such a thing. I found this out when, eventually, I came to when they were in the heat of the moment and started screaming at them. My sister quickly covered herself, and Steve hastily dressed and left. Rachel screamed at me that I was ruining her life. But excuse me, I didn't choose to be born a Siamese twin, and I was so upset, I decided to take revenge. The next time Steve visited my sister, I pretended to fall asleep. They decided to take advantage of the situation, but I had my own plan. I didn't stir or wake up when they started, but when they were really getting into it, I took out my phone and started recording a video. Like a real spy, I did everything silently, and they had no idea I was filming it. But I couldn't even think that this would be my downfall. The next day, I sent the video to Steve. I threatened to put their hot video on the internet if Steve didn't dump Rachel. Yes, I was blackmailing him because this whole situation had completely enraged me. Naturally, he was a little bit embarrassed to be dating a girl with such an unusual condition, especially since he himself was pretty nerdy. I had hoped this would be enough to make him leave us alone, but nothing went as planned. Steve told Rachel, and the two of them began accusing me of trying to ruin everything. They snatched my phone and deleted the video, but it had been uploaded to the cloud ages ago and was password protected. What idiots! They at first threatened and then tried to bribe me to delete the video, but I stood firm. I decided I wasn't going to be mocked for their love. I was ready to put their video on the internet and knew that it would be a massive hit. After all, Siamese twins are so rare. Rachel and Steve backed down under pressure, and they parted. I thought I had won, but my sister's plan was far more brutal than mine. At first, Rachel took her revenge in little ways. She specifically did everything she could to spite me. We couldn't agree on anything, which way to go or what to do. Her bad mood meant that I had to stay home, staying in near silence as my sister refused to speak to me. She didn't even want to wash. The situation was approaching absurdity, and I didn't want to become some just kind of outcast because of Rachel. I couldn't stand it anymore, and I began to yell at her. She screamed back at me, and we began to physically fight, and then it happened. I fell asleep in our bed that night, but woke up in some weird basement that looked like a hospital ward. There were things pickled in jars nearby, but I couldn't quite see as I was laying down on a table. An operating table. Rachel was next to me, and I realized that our arms and legs were tied down, so we couldn't move. What the hell was going on? There were some people nearby checking over us and some medical equipment, but when I asked them what was happening and where I was, they replied in some foreign language that I couldn't understand. I looked at my sister, and she met my fearful gaze with an ominous smile. Then she told me what she had done. After being forced to break up with Steve, she had secretly contacted Steve and had made a plan. Rachel had found a doctor willing to separate us with surgery. The doctor was an immigrant and was working here illegally from a country whose name my sister didn't even remember. We were in some kind of clandestine hospital and were being prepped for the separation surgery. Rachel had drugged me again with sleeping pills to get me here, and now she was entrusting our lives in the hands of some creepy doctor in a basement. I begged Rachel to get them to stop, but she didn't want to listen. She was blinded by her love and was acting like a complete maniac. In her mind, there was no point in living without Steve. I didn't want to die. I'd never even had a boyfriend. So I began to cry out for help, for anyone to come and save me. The doctor came over with a syringe, and shortly after, I fell into oblivion. I woke up. At home. Everything was normal. My sister was sleeping next to me, and we were still attached. It turned out that when we had disappeared, our parents had grown worried and had found us via Rachel's online correspondence. Evidently, Mom and Dad had arrived just in time. I don't know how this would have ended. Rachel and I had survived, and after talking with our parents, my sister understood what she had risked. She cried, apologized, and we reconciled. I forgave her, and she me. But I realized something. That Rachel had the right to be happy. I wrote to Steve, apologized, and now they're together again. I agreed with Rachel that when I have a boyfriend, we'd go on date shifts, and everything kind of went back to normal. So it seems, because something odd has started happening. I began noticing how Steve is odd around me. How he's just started touching and stroking me when my sister isn't looking. I'm afraid to tell Rachel this. We've just started getting along again, and she'll think that I'm plotting against her. Do you think it's worth talking to her about? What should I do? Please tell me in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe to the channel for more awesome content.
Hi, my name is Amy. My sisters and I are triplets, but not in the way you'd imagine. We are conjoined siblings. My sisters' names are Elena and Anna. Yes, my parents thought it'd be cute to give us all names starting with A. I'll be telling you the struggles we went through and how my sister Anna is ruining Elena and my lives. They won't be telling their sides of the story, so don't expect to hear them in this video. Elena is too shy to talk about all this mess, and Anna is the one creating this whole chaos. I don't want to hear her talking at all. My mom and dad never saw our unique condition coming. The pregnancy was perfectly normal, and the doctors assured Mom she was only expecting one baby. Apparently, my sisters were hiding behind my head the few times she underwent an echography. Though she did check with doctors to make sure we were okay and took us to the pediatrician as we grew up, she usually avoided the hospital as often as possible. Perhaps if Mom had visited the doctor more regularly, they would have discovered the truth earlier. I'm not sure it would have made much of a difference, though. Nothing prepares people to deal with conjoined twins, let alone triplets. My parents had the room prepared for the arrival of their firstborn, but things were not going to be so easy. Mom wanted to deliver us in some kind of natural birth, but that ended up being impossible. We wouldn't come out. How could we, if we had 3 heads in a single body? So the doctors had to perform an emergency C-section. Mom tried to refuse for as long as possible, but she gave in when she was told her baby's life was at stake. Imagine the doctors' and nurses' surprise when they saw my sisters and me for the first time. 3 heads and 3 necks shared a single body. We all cried at the same time, or so my mom claimed. She said she was shocked and asked what was going on. The doctors didn't know what to say. Having 3 heads on a baby was almost unheard of. There were plenty of cases of conjoined twins, but triplets were a real oddity. It was hard, but they broke the news to my parents. They couldn't believe that anything like that could actually happen to them. The truth of the matter is, my parents tried their best. They were expecting a healthy daughter and received 3 babies in the same body. We demanded far more attention and had to endure surgery at a really early age. My parents tried to find a potential solution to our problem, but there was no way to separate us. We shared all the same vital organs, except our brains. We were born with an extra arm and a larger body, but other than that, the rest of our body worked as any other person would, so there was no possibility to cut us apart. Growing up with this condition was super hard. You might think that the other 2 heads weren't fully formed or something, but that's not the case. We are 3 entirely separate people. It's just that we live in the same body. We each have our own personalities, preferences, likes, and dislikes. Imagine growing up constantly around someone else 24/7 without any chances of being alone, even for a few seconds. We were connected in every sense of the word. My parents had to buy a special bed for us, as well as custom-made clothes. You can figure out why none of the regular outfits a kid would wear could fit us. We had 3 whole heads and 3 arms we needed to fit into the dresses and shirts, so no matter what we used, it always had to be made especially for us. I'm grateful my parents didn't struggle financially, since that is probably what allowed us to have a decent life. If they hadn't been able to provide for us, we might not have lived for long, or at least not lived well. My mom and dad loved us dearly, even if it was clear they were in over their heads. They didn't know how to handle babies, and then kids and teenagers with 3 heads and 3 distinct personalities. Everything was harder for us than a regular child. Sleeping was a struggle, making friends was a struggle, studying was a struggle. Even bathing, eating, and going to the bathroom was a whole long and complicated process. Plus, I didn't get along at all with one of my sisters, Anna. If you have siblings, try to imagine being glued to your sister or brother all the time, them being by your side every single second of the day. If you don't, replace it with your best friend. No matter how much you might like them, you'd grow frustrated after a day or two. Exactly, that would be super annoying. We didn't have to endure that just a handful of days. It was our entire life. Now, even the sister I like, Elena, gets on my nerves from time to time. I imagine the same happens to her. Being with Anna, meanwhile, is always a nightmare. I love Elena to bits, but Anna is another story altogether. Growing up, we all had really different personalities. Elena was always really quiet and loved to read. She's super shy and rarely speaks to strangers. She preferred being alone, or as alone as you can be with 2 siblings sharing your body. Anna was super short-tempered, and she got angry so suddenly we never knew when it was coming. It was hard enduring her temper tantrums and her cruel streak. Plus, she was really nasty toward people, and the few friends we had hated her too, so it became super hard keeping any friendships growing up. What's worse, we always had to do what she wanted. If Elena wanted to stay in and read her books, but Anna preferred going outside, you can imagine who'd win. Anna would make sure to be super loud and really annoying just to get her way. So Elena tried to read, and Anna would close the book, punch my other sister or me, or just scream and talk nonstop until we gave up. Then she was in a super good mood again. She was incredibly spoiled and selfish. I am the one in the middle of Elena and Anna, so I try my best to be sort of a buffer between them. I'm far more laid back and prefer to simply chill and have a good time. I think we already have enough problems to deal with as it is. We don't need to add drama and arguments into our lives. The problem was that, with time, Anna's faults didn't get better. They got worse. Far worse. My sister didn't allow us to do anything she didn't feel like doing. So if we needed to get homework done and she wanted to play, she'd throw water on our folders or write all over our papers. If we wanted to watch a movie she didn't like, she'd scream so we couldn't hear. We'd always end up giving up because she simply wouldn't stop. No matter how much we tried to reason with her, she kept it up. Even when Elena sobbed or explained how much her attitude upset us, she seemed not to care about our needs or preferences. Everything was about her, and she acted out constantly. She always wanted to be the center of attention and would make up the most ridiculous stories. She had gotten us in so much trouble with the teachers by the time we got to high school that my parents had to actually find a new school for us. Things did not get better after that. On the contrary, she began doing cruel, crazy stuff and then blaming it on either Elena or myself. She would destroy a student's cell phone and then say it was Elena for no good reason. Then she'd scribble all over the tables and say I had been the one to do it. She once even clogged the toilet on purpose and cut Elena's hair while both of us slept. I managed to wake up before she got to me. Imagine how hard it is to ground a child that is misbehaving when their siblings are attached to her. My parents couldn't punish only Anna for her cruelty without us also suffering. So if Anna couldn't watch TV or have dessert, we had to endure the same punishment. Anna would taunt us about it, finding glee in denying us nice things even if she had to go without it as well. My sister Anna was the one in charge of our left arm and leg, so you can imagine how messy that got. Until we turned 17, she had been nasty but not dangerous. Then everything began to change. We were about to cross the street when the traffic light changed. We stopped, waiting for the cars to stop speeding past us, when I felt someone trying to push us forward. At first, I thought someone was behind us, but then I realized it was my own body that was moving, or at least, it was the left side of my body. Anna was trying to walk straight into traffic. Elena and I screamed at her to stop. We actually had to throw ourselves back and fall to the floor in order to stop her. We demanded to know what on earth she was thinking, and she let us know she wanted to hurt us. We reminded her that by hurting us, she was hurting herself. Anna laughed and said she didn't care. That was when I understand that Anna wasn't merely annoying and cruel. She was absolutely insane. Elena and I decided to speak to our parents, and we told her everything that Anna had done and said that day. They were really worried, of course, but they didn't want to pick favorites. Mom and Dad loved us all equally, and they didn't think Anna was evil. They just thought she was troubled. So they sent us to talk to a shrink. I hope I could say that this improved our relationship, but it only made it worse. Anna was furious that we had told on her and was determined to ruin our lives completely. She began doing everything in her own power to mess with us. While we were walking down the street, she'd scream foul things at people around us. She didn't allow us to sleep in peace, waking the two of us in the middle of the night by making loud noises or forcing us to sit up. She would refuse to clean her hair, and taking a shower became such a struggle. If it was hard before, now it was almost impossible. Whenever Elena and I tried to study, she'd mess with us, and taking exams became harder than ever. Still, we somehow managed to graduate from school. Elena wanted to go to college, but I can't imagine Anna letting us do that. Anna has been making sure our every second with her is a living nightmare, and what's worse, Elena and I can't escape. She even hurts us when we are sleeping, so we can't even enjoy a nice rest without stressing about her messing with us. I really don't know how the situation is going to be solved, but I'm afraid for Elena's life, as well as my own. Anna doesn't seem to care if she lives or dies. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos on this channel.